I've got Megan Copley in the BizNews studio. She's the Director of Real Estate Investments at Sable International. And Megan, you've got a message today for younger investors.
Hi, Linda. Yes, thanks for having me. We at Sable have just launched a real estate investment team. The idea is to help South Africans to invest in real estate offshore, to wealth migrate a little bit of their wealth if they choose to do so. A big passion of mine is helping people who are younger than your usual investor is perceived to be. So maybe those in their 20s and 30s, like me, who are looking to generate their wealth now. And I'd like to help them do that through offshore property. I'm passionate about it. I understand a lot about it. And it's a project I can take on with any young investor who needs handholding through that journey.
So you've actually told me earlier that people think they need a lot of money to be able to go and invest in, say, buy a flat in London or wherever. And you think it's not such a big amount that you actually need.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think about it when I was younger, and I just always thought only parents can invest. Um, but really, if you are looking to potentially buy yourself your first home, or you've got a little bit of extra money that you're putting towards another investment towards retirement, I would say that anyone who has got a spare 1 or 2 million rand should be considering real estate investment offshore. The thing is that there are property markets in, say, UK, for instance, big cities within the UK and outer cities, where one can buy a property using just 2 million rand and actually taking a mortgage abroad. Because believe it or not, South Africans can get mortgages in the UK. There's many lenders. There's 87 different types of lending available, and the interest rates are significantly lower than you'll be used to in South Africa. So, I mean, this just a little bit about it. Obviously, one would need to speak to us for a period of time and understand their personal circumstances. But it's a product. It's an investment available to someone with, it's a significant amount of money, but 1 or 2 million rand.
Yeah, well, it sounds like quite a lot, but it's not a lot when you get to pounds or dollars or euros. So how do they go about it? How do you guide them to find the right property? I mean, how do they even start looking? Because it's no use going onto a website, a real estate website, and start looking. I mean, you've got to know what you're doing.
Yeah, so I actually spent the last 14 years working in property in the UK. I worked for a family office. I worked for a large developer for a long time. So I really understand UK property. I would suggest that someone goes to an expert who understands the markets. I also worked in the European markets, so those I understand too. Um, you need good advice. You need to trust someone that you work with. Sable is a brand synonymous with integrity, so a really good business to come to. And we can actually take care of anyone from an end-to-end service. We have forex teams, we have tax consultants, our accountants. We have a wealth team if someone is looking to build a portfolio. Myself, who will take you through the real estate purchase, help you to find something that's suitable for you as a buyer, something to suit the risk profile of that buyer, and what they're looking to achieve from that investment. So it really is about the right people who have the experience in the different avenues of the purchase, and making sure that you looked after as a buyer moving forward, that you know what your obligations are from a tax perspective, both in the country that you purchase and in the country that you tax resident, and also need to what you need to understand sorry, and what you need to understand in long-term ownership. So we would do that, and we would help, and that would sort of be our role as advisors in the process. But it's not a difficult process. It's something that we also have a mortgage team in-house. It's something that we could do with someone, as I say, in an end-to-end service, so that they feel well informed and ready.
So you mentioned a million or 2 million rand. What does that buy for you as a deposit in the UK? What kind of place would you get? The tiniest little flat, or could you do more with that?
So at the moment, for a foreign investor, my advice is always to look to a city outside of London. Of course, London is really one of the most expensive cities in the world, but the UK has many buzzing hubs where there's, great businesses, big names, PwC head offices, Google head offices, where you can actually buy property that you can get a fantastic professional tenant. There's many factors at play in the UK that mean it's got a buzzing and booming property market, and it's a great place for investors. But at the moment, we're probably finding most of the property that we sell is in Birmingham and Manchester, or just outside. And that's a great place because we have housing demand, tenant demand, for residential property. New build property is great for an investor because from the sheer nature of it being new build, it presents less hassles. The developer is accountable for a warranty on the build. All of your appliances and so on will be new. So from a practical point of view, you can expect few hassles. If one were to put down between 50,000 and 100,000 pounds, so that's roughly 1 million to 2 million rand, we would hope to find them an asset worth about 175,000 pounds to about 350,000 pounds, say. And that could be anywhere from a studio to a 2-bedroom apartment, possibly 3-bedroom, but more like a 2-bedroom, in a new development in those regions where they could aim to achieve around 4 to 6% in rental return. What's really interesting, though, is on that purchase, they would be putting down a deposit, they would be taking out a mortgage, the rental of the property would cover the mortgage, the interest on the mortgage, so that the property doesn't cost them money every day, or every month rather. But we hope that with the historic capital appreciation in the UK, we hope that value of that asset grows each year, somewhere between 5 and 8%. And that's the value of the whole asset, not just the 50 to 100,000 pounds they put down. So that's really the benefit of investing abroad.
So, how did the pandemic affect, if you're talking about the UK specific as a destination now, how did the pandemic affect property prices? And because there was growth, but is that going to continue?
So actually, the UK market is an interesting one because it has so much foreign investment. And I personally, my own opinion is that people have so much confidence in the UK, and it is all about confidence. It's how you buy and why you buy is how confident you are about a marketplace and its stability. The UK is stable, and even if there's been dips in property prices, there's been an overall rise year on year in those prices. Or if there was a period of time, say the recession, where property prices came off, they're way up from those previous crash prices again. So it is about confidence. And during the time of COVID, when perhaps there was a little bit more volatility in the market than we'd seen before, the UK government actually incentivized purchasing in the market by removing a stamp duty, which is in South Africa equivalent to a transfer tax, and allowing purchasers to take all of the money that they had saved up and go and buy a property up to £500,000. That was the ceiling for the tax, for the removal of the tax. And so, those young professionals, investors who had saved up enough money for a deposit but couldn't afford the transfer tax, now didn't have to pay the transfer tax. So people moved and they purchased. And so there was a buzz and confidence in the market again, and action and movement. So it drives price increases. So again, there was no downfall in certain segments of the market. I think in the what we call the ultra high net worth market of over £5 million, there was a slight downfall, but certainly not below £1 million, which is where our investor market mainly sits.
So, what about investors who might say, "No, well, I'm not keen on Britain at the moment because of Brexit. I'd rather want to be part of Europe." What does property investment opportunities look like for young people in Europe?
So there's so many options. I've actually spent the last 5 years working in France, between France and London, so I really understand that market. But at the moment, because of, I suppose, many factors, travel, communities, I find South Africans are quite drawn to places where they can find a community of other South Africans, and also language barriers. Um, I would say that a great place to invest at the moment is actually Portugal. It is somewhere that an investor or a purchaser can buy a golden visa, or the route to a golden visa. But this is different. You can actually invest in property regardless of the option of passport or European nationality. Um, and property in Portugal is a safe haven, in my opinion. Another place is Germany. A great place to invest in the cities of Germany, Frankfurt, Berlin. They've all seen great property price increases, fantastic tenant demand. Again, between Portugal and Germany, they're also hubs for big offices for your sort of tech worker who can work remotely from wherever. These are cool cities, with a good tenant demand, which is what any investor or landlord wants to hear when they're buying a property abroad.
So, why should an South African young investor why would they rather buy property overseas than in South Africa? Why would that be a good idea?
I think it's about diversification. Um, Unfortunately, in South Africa, our interest rates are quite high if one is taking lending. So that can take away from the investment. I think it's important that somebody, do what they need to do for their primary home when it comes to purchasing property in South Africa and living in South Africa. But there's many reasons to invest offshore. One of those is the currency. In Europe and in Britain, there's a very strong currency, the pound or the euro. It shows lower volatility than the rand. So it's a great place, a safe haven for a currency, for you to grow an investment portfolio somewhere like that, and convert that to rands in the long term. The confidence in the market, which is what we spoke about earlier, that's important. Property prices see a rise per year. We're never looking at any investment, but obviously, I specialize in just property investment. You've got to consider inflation, interest rates, capital appreciation, and the currency in which your asset is based, and all of those in the UK present a very good investment case.
Yeah, sounds good. Well, thank you, Megan Copley from Sable International, for that advice for especially for young investors who might not think they would be able to invest overseas, but you say, yeah, you can.
Yeah, you can. And one other point I've just thought to mention as well is when thinking about a property, you should always think, really practically about it. And property in the UK or in established markets like that, unemployment is low. The property market, property management market is also very established. So you sort of land up with this investment that you're highly likely to get a tenant because of low unemployment. You're highly likely to get a good professional tenant, and you can rely on the very competitive rental market and competitive management market, that you can find somebody over there to look after the property. So all of the worries after investment outside of the sort of financial reasons to do it are also taken care of in your more established markets like the UK, like Germany, and like Portugal that we spoke about. So that's also really good to remember.
And one thing I took from what you said, don't fall in love with something Victorian, because that you need something new that, that is not going to cost you a lot of money while you sit far away from your property.
Yeah, you know what? There's risks in everything you do, and I think our job at Sable, and my job as a real estate advisor in this case, is to mitigate those risks as much as possible. So a good developer with a good brand, a track record, and something new so that you don't have too much hassle.
Thank you, Megan Copley from Sable International.